What if I told you that the most terrifying monsters ever imagined, the ones people thought were pure mythology, pure fantasy, pure nightmare, actually existed, not in some distant galaxy, right here, on this exact planet, in these exact oceans? We're not talking about dinosaurs. We're not talking about anything you learned in school. We're talking about creatures so alien in appearance, so impossible in design, that when scientists first discovered their fossils, they genuinely didn't know what they were looking at. 7 creatures. 7 things that should not have existed, but they did. And today, I'm going to show you every single one. Number 7. The Tully Monster, the animal science couldn't classify. In 1955, a coal miner named Francis Tully was digging through rock in Illinois when he found something that stopped him cold. It wasn't a bone. It wasn't a shell. It was a soft-bodied creature, perfectly preserved in stone, that looked like nothing on Earth. He brought it to the Field Museum in Chicago. The paleontologists there, some of the best in the world, looked at it and said, "We have no idea what this is." They named it Tullimonstrum gregarium, the Tully monster. Picture this: a foot-long body shaped like a torpedo, with 2 eyes sitting on rigid stalks jutting out from the sides of its head, like a hammerhead shark, but worse. And instead of a mouth, it had a long, flexible snout tipped with tiny claw-like teeth. For 60 years, scientists argued about what this thing even was. Was it a worm? A mollusk? A primitive fish? Nobody agreed. Nobody could agree. It was so unlike every other animal that ever lived, they couldn't even place it in a category. 300 million years ago, while the Earth was still being figured out, this thing was hunting in shallow seas, using those nightmare eyes and that mechanical jaw to grab prey in the dark. The Tully monster doesn't fit our world. It fits a world we can barely imagine. Number 6. Helicoprion, the buzzsaw that lived inside a shark. For decades, scientists kept finding the same fossil over and over. A perfect spiral of teeth, like a circular saw blade, preserved in rock. The problem? They had no idea where on the animal it came from. Some said it was a horn on the creature's nose. Some said it was a weapon held outside the body. Some thought it was a defense mechanism on the tail. The debate went on for over 100 years. Then, finally, they figured it out. The spiral sat inside the lower jaw. Every time this shark-like creature closed its mouth, the wheel of teeth rotated inward, pulling prey deeper, shredding it apart, with no escape possible. Helicoprion lived 270 million years ago. It wasn't small. It could reach over 20 feet long. And every single tooth it ever grew, it kept. The spiral just got bigger and bigger throughout its life, like a record of every creature it ever killed, stored permanently in its jaw. There is nothing like Helicoprion alive today. Nothing even close. Because nature tried this design once, got it horrifyingly right, and never needed to do it again. Number 5. Jaekelopterus, the sea scorpion. That outgrew everything. Imagine a scorpion. Now make it 8 feet long. Now put it in the water. Now give it compound eyes the size of your fist, clawed arms built for crushing, and the speed to chase down armored fish. That is Jaekelopterus. And it is the largest arthropod, the largest insect-like creature that has ever existed on this planet. It lived over 400 million years ago, long before the first dinosaurs, long before the first reptiles. In its world, it was the apex predator of every river system and coastal water it entered. No invertebrate has grown bigger since. Not before, not after. Just this one creature, in one moment of Earth's history, broke the size limit entirely. Scientists found its fossilized claw in Germany in 2007, and even the claw alone was over 18 inches long. Think about that. The claw alone. 18 inches. Whatever Jaekelopterus grabbed, it didn't let go. Number 4. Tanystropheus, the neck that defied physics. Here's a question nobody ever thinks to ask. What's the longest neck an animal can physically have before it stops making sense? Tanystropheus answered that question by completely ignoring it. This creature lived 242 million years ago in the Triassic seas. It had a body about the size of a large dog, and a neck, 10 feet long. That's 3 times the length of its entire torso. A neck so long and so rigid, made of just 13 elongated vertebrae, that scientists originally thought the fossils were flying reptile wing bones. How did it even move? Scientists think it stood at the water's edge, totally still, and used that impossible neck like a fishing rod, dipping its head into the water to snatch fish before anything knew it was there. It was a patient killer, a creature that turned its greatest physical disadvantage into its greatest weapon. It didn't chase. It didn't rush. It just waited, and then that neck would strike. Number 3. Atopodentatus. The animal that invented a mouth. Nobody expected. Every predator in history had one thing in common: teeth built to kill, claws built to grab, speed built to chase. And then there was Atopodentatus, which looked at all of that and decided to become a vacuum cleaner. This marine reptile from 242 million years ago had a skull shaped like a hammer and a mouth that split directly down the middle. Hundreds of tiny needle teeth arranged like a sieve, designed not to bite, not to tear, but to filter algae from the seafloor. When scientists first found the fossils, they were completely wrong about how the head worked. It took finding better specimens to reveal the truth: that this creature was one of the very first large marine herbivores on Earth. In a world of killers, Atopodentatus invented a different way to survive. While everything else was evolving weapons, it evolved a filter. While everything else was hunting, it was grazing. And it worked. For millions of years, it worked. Number 2. Opabinia. 5 eyes and a claw on the end of a trunk. When a scientist presented Opabinia to a room full of paleontologists in 1972, the audience laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so absurd, so impossible looking, that the human brain's only response was to laugh. Opabinia had 5 eyes. 5 mushroom-shaped eyes arranged across its head, giving it nearly 360 degrees of vision. It had gills running down its sides, and extending from the front of its face was a long, flexible proboscis, like an elephant's trunk, tipped with a grasping claw. It would probe the seafloor with that claw, grab prey, and then curl the trunk backward to stuff the food into a mouth located underneath its head, a mouth that faced the wrong direction. This was 500 million years ago, during the Cambrian period, when life on Earth was still figuring out what shapes were even possible. Opabinia was one of evolution's wildest experiments, a body plan so unique that nothing like it exists today, and nothing like it existed before it. It was only 7 centimeters long, but if you saw it moving across the ocean floor, 5 eyes scanning, trunk reaching, you would swear you were looking at something from another world entirely. Number 1. Hallucigenia. The creature scientists put together wrong. Twice. Here is one final creature, one final nightmare from the Cambrian Sea, and this one earned its name. Hallucigenia, named for its hallucination-like appearance. When scientists first reconstructed it from fossils in the 1970s, they got it completely backward. They thought its legs were spines on its back. They thought its back spines were legs. They put the head where the tail was. For decades, every textbook, every diagram, every illustration had this creature entirely, utterly wrong. And even after they corrected it, it still looked impossible. 7 pairs of sharp, nail-like spines on its back, for defense. 7 pairs of thin, claw-tipped legs underneath, for walking. 3 pairs of soft tentacles near its head, probably for sensing the world around it. And the final detail scientists discovered, the one that feels like it came from a horror film, was the mouth. Inside the throat of Hallucigenia was a ring of teeth, a perfect ring of recurved teeth, so that once something went in, it couldn't come back out. It was half an inch long. It lived 508 million years ago. And it looked like a hallucination, which is exactly what it was named after. 7 creatures, each one more impossible than the last, each one real. The Tully monster that no scientist could classify. The helicoprion with a buzzsaw for a jaw. Jacalopterus, the 8-foot scorpion that ruled the ancient seas. Tenestropheus with its 10-foot neck. Atopodentatus that chose filters over fangs. Opabinia with 5 eyes and a grabbing trunk. And Hallucigenia, the worm scientists got wrong, twice. Here's the thing about these creatures, untummies. They didn't exist in some far-off galaxy. They walked the same ground. They swam the same water. They breathed the same planet. And if evolution produced all of this once, what's it capable of producing in the deep oceans we still haven't explored? In the caves we haven't mapped? In the ecosystems we don't yet understand? Maybe some experiments never truly ended. If that thought keeps you up tonight, good. It should.